In the real world, diamonds are some of the most expensive thing that a person can get their hands on, with even just a 5mm diamond ring costing an extortionate $2,000. As a result, it's no surprise that I found myself thinking of the speculative value of Ben 10's very own Diamond Head. After all, diamond is literally in the name. Of course, Diamond Head and the Petrosapien species as a whole aren't actually made of real diamonds, but rather just some other form of crystalline mineral, which we know from the fact that diamonds are made of carbon, and Diamond Head is confirmed to be a silicon-based lifeform. He can't be made of diamond because, well, he's literally not made of the same stuff. When checking the Ben 10 wiki to see if there were any crew statements on what Diamond Head specifically is made of, I came across this particular piece of trivia that states that Diamond Head's crystals have no value. While this statement does come from the big man Derek J. Wyatt himself, it isn't as if Derek hasn't said things in the past that contradicted already existing crew statements, and he could have also easily made this statement without any actual thought put into the logistics of what he was saying. So while I do acknowledge that he has made this statement, I am going to ignore it for the sake of this video, because I am allowed to take a grain of salt to such crew statements. Besides, videos like these are just a bit of fun to me, so at the end of the day, if you don't like that I'm making a video on something that's already been quote-unquote debunked, then just know that I'm really only doing this as a thought experiment, aiming to figure out whether or not Derek's statement that the Petrosapien crystal lacks value holds water or not. So without further ado, let's get right into discussing the hypothetical value of a Petrosapien's crystals. It's hero time! So when it comes to any material, I would say that there are 4 characteristics that define its inherent value, which I like to call the 4 big A's. Appearance, abundance, attributes, and applications. Appearance is simply how pretty a material looks. Abundance is how much of the material exists and how easy it is to gather. Attributes are the qualities that the material possesses that either make it useful or useless. And applications are the ways that the material can be used as a result of its attributes. So today, let's take a look at the Petrosapien crystals and answer the 4 big A's in order to determine how valuable this material should actually be within the Ben 10 universe. So to start off with appearance, this is of course a subjective matter, as beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but generally speaking, I would say that the Petrosapien crystal would be quite appealing. After all, most every crystal in real life is absolutely beautiful, and are often used as adornments for various types of jewelry such as necklaces, rings, and earrings. With its striking visual similarities to diamonds, which I explained at the start of this video go for truly ridiculous prices, we can safely say that Petrosapien crystals could well serve as a diamond adjacent, likely putting them at the forefront of the fashion and jewelry worlds. That alone would give them some decent value, but let's look at the other 3 big A's. Moving into abundance, the waters have been muddied a bit here due to the flux that the Petrosapien species existed in throughout the Ben 10 franchise. After all, the Petrosapiens went from being a thriving species to extinct to revived in the span of only a few years. Not to mention that their homeworld and, in the reboot, their entire solar system is full of the crystals that they're made of. So with this in mind, I imagine there could be a sort of marketplace flux, where the crystals went from low value to high value after the species went extinct and the material obviously became extremely scarce, then back to low value once the species was revived. Also, considering that the Petrosapiens were supposedly created by none other than Jesus Crystal himself, I don't think scarcity even matters when you claim that these crystals come from a god-adjacent entity, and you wouldn't be lying or exaggerating in saying so. Abundance be damned, a holy rock made these things, and that's gotta speak to some value, at least to some people, likely cultists. But also, continuing further into the point of abundance, we have to consider that even with just a few Petrosapiens left in the universe, these guys are capable of producing a metric shit ton of crystal in a matter of seconds. So this abundance would be extremely easy to come across even with just 1 Petrosapien left in the universe. Now, moving into attributes, the Petrosapien crystal really has a lot going for itself here. It's incredibly durable, absorbs mana, conducts electricity, is heat and cold resistant, is super duper sharp, and it's self-replicating and regenerative. At least within a conscious Petrosapien. These properties put it a literal head, shoulders, knees, and toes above the rest of the competition, and make it one of the most versatile and useful materials in all of the Ben 10 universe, perhaps rivaled only by Tadenite, a material that is also incredibly sharp and durable. Finally, moving into applications, the Petrosapien crystal really has unlimited uses here. It could be the lining of an industrial furnace or something else that needs to reach incredibly high temperatures. Could be used to line cold-resistant suits for exploring sub-zero conditions. Could be used to make armor or weaponry. It could be used as a diamond drill, which is something in the real world, by the way. Could be used as a filling for a wire thanks to its electrical conductivity, similar to copper. Could be used as jewelry or fashion wear, as we previously discussed and explained in the appearance category. And this is really only looking at the most practical uses for the material. When we consider that tatanite is literally used as both a currency and even the foundation material for an entire goddamn race car, which to be perfectly honest does sound like something a rich person would do just to flex on the poor, the applications of the Petrosapien crystal does genuinely become so much more open. It could be used to make furniture or even buildings, and it wouldn't necessarily be a waste of the material due to the fact that it is so easily obtainable, which could result in it being a cheap but incredibly sturdy building material. It could also work as vanity items, as seen with the tatanite car, perhaps being used for fashion and flexing your richness over others, or so on. Across the board, the Petrosapien crystal earns its right to excel in every single category within the 4 big A's, so why does Derek say that it lacks value entirely? After all, this thing is, as we've just discussed, perhaps one of the most useful materials for pretty much any purpose that you could think of, so why doesn't it sell for anything? My speculation for this is that Derek worked under the assumption that it lacked value due to how commonly it can be found, but I can very easily spin a loophole through this that entirely discredits this logic. In Ben 10, there are ways to literally breach into different timelines, dimensions, and universes, go forwards or backwards in time, and so on. If the Petrosapien crystal is valueless because it can be found so easily, then technically every material should have 0 value because you can literally just get a Chronosapien to come along and rewind time on the material or vein in itself in order to regenerate it to its prior state, or fast forward time so that it replenishes. And that's not even bringing up the fact that you could just travel to the same point in a different timeline to collect that same material from there, or cross between universes and dimensions in order to gather the material from another place entirely as well. By this logic, literally nothing should have any value because literally everything can be found in abundance just by using space-time travel, which even humans could create with their low-level technological advancement, meaning that pretty much any species more advanced than them, which I would argue is most aliens within the Ben 10 universe, could very easily begin exploiting the nature of this get-rich-quick life hack in order to gather a practically infinite supply of materials. But let's be kind to Derek and give him the benefit of the doubt that he didn't stop to think about this, admittedly very unfair and overly logical counterpoint to a cartoon's logic, and look at another in-universe reason that could explain why Petrosapien crystals sell for so little. In the UAF era of the Ben 10 franchise, we are introduced to the concept of credit cubes, a type of currency that, if my understanding is correct, can be exchanged in return for literally anything. See a car you like? Exchange it for a credit cube. See a new house you like? Exchange it for a credit cube. See a pet you want to buy? Exchange it for a credit cube. And so on. The credit cube is essentially an equivalent exchange item, and while that may sound horrendous for an economy, it actually makes some level of sense when you think about it. To begin with, an economy that spans an entire universe and all of its assorted planets and species is going to be incredibly layered and complicated. To begin with, an economy that spans an entire universe and all of its assorted planets and species is going to be incredibly layered and complicated, as some materials will have to be cheaper for aliens who can just find it on their own planet, as opposed to aliens whose homeworlds lack that particular material entirely. Prices and values will absolutely fluctuate depending on who wants them and from what world they originate, so the credit cube is essentially a nice and easy way to get around the headache that figuring out price differences would be. If the credit cube can be exchanged for anything, think of it like this. A lepidopteran produces a high-quality fishing net, which a tetraman buys for a credit cube. The tetraman takes home the net, and in return for all their hard work in weaving the net, the lepidopteran gets the credit cube. Now, the lepidopteran can go and buy the most expensive house they can find in return for what was somewhat easy labour, and the credit cube either returns to the government of that world or goes to the individual homeowner, who then could perhaps use the same credit cube to buy a new spaceship. And then that person who traded the spaceship for a credit cube could use that credit cube to get their tyres replaced on their car, and so the cycle continues. The credit cube is not necessarily a broken currency because it allows anyone to exchange hard work in order to attain something that can easily purchase the hard work of someone else. And the system can be easily maintained by just saying that a person can only have one credit cube at a time, and that perhaps credit cubes are only earned through very special means like as a reward for long-serving military action, or donating incredible amounts of money to a charity, or something else of the like, acting as an incentive for people to work harder and achieve more so that they can get their hands on a credit cube, which not only would benefit them, but would benefit intergalactic society as a whole by making people work harder and achieve more in order to better the lives of others indirectly so that they can get their grubby little mitts on a credit cube. An economy can theoretically thrive off of this system, which I suppose you would call efficient communism, so as technically the credit cube just acts as a pass-along that lets people buy whatever they want from others. And people aren't likely to refuse the offer because they can use that credit cube to buy literally anything else that they ever wanted. So perhaps the Petrosapien crystal lacks value entirely as a result of the credit cube. But then we have to remember that tatanite is used as a currency, likely a currency that exists for those who don't have their hands on a credit cube and have to make purchases through traditional means. So even with the existence of the credit cubes, materials like the Petrosapien crystals don't necessarily lack all value, as they are still likely either a cheap or expensive commodity to those who don't own any credit cubes and have to work for their own money. But with all that said, that's about all I have to say with this video. I feel like it got a bit confusing at some points because, I mean, it's just a lot to wrap your head around when it comes to the economical side of things. But, hey, feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments below and put your other theories on the subject there. I always do genuinely love to see what you guys all have to say, and with that, let's move into our usual post-video rituals. So, first of all, big thank you to our channel's Thunderbeasts. Riverjoy, Hearn_, Minilmuir, Victor Matusik, Charstream AA, and Plasma6. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. It does genuinely really help to keep things going over here on my end, so thank you. Now let's move into last video's poll, where I asked you guys if you preferred Luffy, Zoro, or Sanji from One Piece's Monster Trio. With 487 total votes, Luffy unsurprisingly won with 58% of the total votes, Zoro unsurprisingly got second place with 27% of the votes, and Sanji, unsurprisingly, came last place with only 15% of the votes. Honestly, this outcome was entirely expected to me, but I still found it interesting to see the exact percentages that people provided. Personally, my favourite is Zoro, if that video itself and a previous video on my channel wasn't already enough of a dead giveaway. I absolutely love Zoro, and if Chopper wasn't so much of a marketing darling, Zoro would be my favourite Straw Hat by a landslide. So now let's go ahead and give a shout out to everybody who correctly guessed that Zoro was my favourite of the Monster Trio. So, big shout out to Moderno Flux, Earthrealm Warrior, Lady Matt Host Sinos 2086, Seknar2272, Maxus8075, and Happy Axolotl24, as well as Tyler Ferguson 3193. Congratulations to everyone who correctly guessed. Now then, to finish things off with this video's poll, I'm going to be asking you guys which of the following Ben 10 characters is your favourite. Tetrax, Vilgax, or Myax? Yeah, a lot of axe names. Leave a comment below or on the poll guessing which one you think is my favourite for a chance to get a shout out next video. But with all that said, I'll be seeing you all next time. Adios, fellow heroes.